going on, everyone? DOS Tim here. I am absolutely excited. This is going to be the first vlog of the channel, and today I just want to talk about my Mk6 GTI, what it's been like to own it, and answer some questions that you may have. If you have any other ones, you can always post in the comment section. I love reading comments, so I'll try to get back to you guys when I can. So anyway, without further ado, I have the 2014 Mk6 GTI. It was the last model year of the Mk6 in the US. I'm not sure about overseas, but I know here this was the last model year. And arguably, you'll hear it's one of the more reliable model years. That's kind of a crock of shit. I love this car to death. It's APR Stage 2 tuned, and it's just fucking amazing. But even though it's the last model year of the Mk6, it's got issues. It's got tons of issues. Manageable, but just minor inconveniences, and I want to go over those. So first and foremost, let's talk about the big thing you're going to realize. If you're going to buy this car, you need to make sure it has the revised timing chain tensioner. Now, the subject's been beat to death. I'm not going to go back into it, but what happens is there's earlier models of the 2.0 TSI that have exploding timing chain tensioners, which basically fail and cause the chain to jump a few teeth. And that's just a bad story. So if you're watching this, it may have happened to you already, and you may not know. So one of the telltale signs is you get a P0391 code, I believe, or a camshaft code, and it'll start running like shit, like garbage. Not like on the level of a bad ignition coil or bad spark plug. Like you can tell something's fucking wrong with it, or it just won't turn back over. And in that case, you'll turn the key, and then you hear a zing. It's just one long kind of like no compression start, and that's kind of a telltale sign that the tensioner is done and the engine's done. Because these are interference motors, it's pretty much you're going to replace the whole entire engine. So if you're going to buy this car without any fucking knowledge, you at the very least need to make sure you have the timing chain tensioner revised. If you don't, then don't fucking drive the car. I can't give you guys a specific interval of when the exact mileage or average is when the chain blows, because I've seen on the forums anywhere from 50,000 miles when these cars first came out all the way fucking up to 80,000 and 100,000 if you're lucky. But anyway, I'm gonna tell you guys straight up. So they said the earlier models of these had the defective timing chain tensioner. 2014 had it in this one, and because it wasn't under the recall, quote unquote, I had to pay out of pocket to get it replaced. Fucking sucks, but that's something that you guys need to check. So just because you have a 2013 or 2014, you're not safe. So just check to be on the safe side. And yes, this is the original engine in the car, and it is the CBFA. So for whatever reason, Volkswagen picked from the parts bin when they built this car, and you may be running around with that tensioner in your 2014 or 2013. So just check that. Secondly, too, P2015. Now that's fucking fun. It's a fun code to talk about. Not really, it's kind of a pain in the ass. So I got that code, and what that means is it's the intake manifold. Usually when you get this code, you can tell your car needs a carbon cleaning because it kind of goes hand in hand. The runner flap, position, hand, motor, whatever you call it, either stays open or closed. When that happens, the arm overextends and it creates a pretty massive vacuum leak, which leads to misfires. We're gonna get into misfires because that's another headache with this car. Anyway, 2014, guess what? Don't have the revised intake manifold, so I got the P2015 code. I also, have to do carbon cleaning, so it's really not a big deal. I was planning on doing it anyway. So if you get this car, you will need to do carbon cleaning. It's not up for discussion. It can affect the performance to the point to where the car is undrivable. Yes, that's the truth. My car, as it was getting more carbon built up on it before this P2015 code, it was taking a little bit longer to crank over. And I thought at first it was the fuel pump, the low pressure fuel pump. So I took it out and I tested it with a multimeter, and it was fine. The pump was working fine. But I just noticed like small little clues, like a decrease in power and performance, to the point to now where not only is the intake manifold failed, but I've been getting sporadic misfires. They're not consistent. I scanned the car one time and almost shit my ass. Like, I'm telling you guys, I almost shit bricks because the shit said multiple misfires. And I was scanning the code scanner. I'm actually using OBD Fusion for iPhone. with a Carista adapter. I was scanning to see if I saw the P0391 code, like, oh my God, I'm gonna need a new engine. But when I started the car again, the codes never showed up. And then about 6 months later, they came back. So if you are getting phantom misfires and you're super fucking frustrated at the point of ready to part the car out or sell it, please clean your valves, because that is probably, actually, I'm 98% certain without even seeing the car, not to be arrogant, that that's probably what's wrong with your Mk6. If you've done your coils, your spark plugs, your timing chain is still intact and hasn't jumped any timing, your intake manifold's fine, your PCV, which is a huge one, is functioning correctly, then you probably have an issue with carbon buildup. So to test your PCV, because that's a common issue as well, the easiest test that I found, because I replaced it in this car as well, which it wasn't hard at all, it was pretty fun, if I may say so myself. You just twist the oil cap while the car is running, and if it sucks the oil cap back into, I mean, don't take it all the way off, don't be an idiot, just twist it a little bit. And if you feel it kind of want to suck the cap back in, then that means your PCV is functioning correctly. That's been the personal surefire test. I did the oil dipstick thing, and when I pulled the dipstick out of while the car was running, it was running rough. So that test, people say if you pull the dipstick and it idles rough, it's working fine. No, I'm here to tell you, unfortunately, that's not always the case. And it sucks too, because the PCV fails in different ways. You know, the diaphragm, the breather hose, and depending on where it actually fails, you're not going to get those symptoms with those tests. So you just really kind of got to be on the lookout for how it fails. And it is time sensitive as well. When the PCV fails, it creates excessive back pressure. And I don't say that lightly. It creates excessive back pressure. Like with me, it was pushing oil out of the rear of the engine, which I thought it was the sealant for the valve cover, but which sucks because it doesn't have a physical valve cover. It's just a fucking glue. So it's a pain to change it, because then you gotta adjust the timing, but I'm not even gonna talk about that. Anyway, when I saw that, I thought that was the issue until I heard like a weird whistling sound, and then I ended up just going on a whim because it was inexpensive, just $100, and I changed it, and the car ran better instantly, and that oil never came back for now, because these cars leak oil. Anyway, going along the lines of time sensitive, if you don't change it in time, the rear main seal gets blown out, because, you know, that's physics for you. It will find the weakest link, and the weakest link tends to be that seal. It's also a defective design. So if you wait too long and it blows your rear main seal, you're gonna have a pile of oil outside of your car, if you're lucky. That's another thing that kind of sucks, because usually it happens while you're driving, and no one really drives looking in their rearview mirror, so you would hope that it would fail at your house, but that's not always the case, so it can cause engine damage. So I just wanted to annotate that in this video, that you need to make sure that you're prompt about replacing the PCV, because it is one of those things like the timing chain that has the potential to grenade your car. So yeah, that's one thing. Water pump, you know, common Euro stuff. The water pumps are pretty bad in these cars. I'm still in the original one at 102K on the clock. So I happen to get lucky, but I'm expecting the replacement. Another weird code you'll get to related to that system is the U102F. I know some of you guys are probably watching this video like, yes, someone's finally addressed it, because there's barely any fucking videos about it on YouTube. So I've gotten it systematically, and you guys aren't gonna like the answer to what this is. So it started with U102F, and then it went to U1030, and now it's P2568. Basically, that means your radiator shit the bed. And it sucks because it's just a sensor, which in actuality should be inexpensive, but because Volkswagen, they wanted to make it what they call tamper-proof, so you have to physically break it in order to remove the sensor from the radiator. They just did it so you can, let's just face it, they just did it so you can buy a whole new radiator, because that's what you have to do, unfortunately, to fix that code. Now, you could find a Mercedes, they sell the sensor individually, but that's gonna require some modification, which is significant. So you're better off to just, in all honesty, upgrade your radiator. That's what I recommend. When something breaks in the car, just upgrade it. With the exception of some parts like your intake manifold and your PCV, the OEM is pretty much the best bet to go, and because it's such a pain in the ass to replace the intake manifold, it's best to just do it right the first time. So for stuff like that, it's best to just go OEM. But yeah, so there's that. And then there's small stuff like the air conditioner, clutch goes bad, and pretty much, I think that's a Volkswagen thing if I'm honest. A Volkswagen and an Audi, because I had an Audi TT, and it also had issues with the air conditioner. And yeah, it just seems like that's pretty much something you'll face anyway. So I would budget about $1,400 if you're gonna have the dealership do it. I know nothing about replacing the AC, so I can't give you guys any advice on that. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, but that's something you'll run into. And then other things like leaks in the sunroof, just various leaks. So check your seal. Headliner sag. Luckily, I don't have that yet on this car, but it does occur on some cars. So, you know, just little cosmetic stuff like that. Let's see, we've gone over water pumps. Sorry guys, I'm currently driving, and I figured, you know, it'd be a good time to do this video, so I don't have like a definitive list off the top of my head, so there's gonna be a lot of I'm sorry, in advance for that. But yeah, so overall I love the car. Again, APR stage 2. I also got the Carbonio intake. I may be slaughtering the name, but that was kind of frustrating to install because I couldn't find any YouTube videos on how to do it properly, so I just kind of had to wing it. But it turned out to be super easy. The worst part about the install for that was taking out the factory intercooler. Excuse me, not intercooler, I'm sorry. The factory air intake. I have the CBFA, so I've got this annoying fucking hose thing that goes in there, which you got to make sure if you have the CBFA and you get an aftermarket intake, you got to get a filter in order to plug the secondary breather hose. If you don't, then it's going to cause issues with your cat. You have a cat delete, whatever, don't worry about it. But the pump itself, it causes issues with that. So I'll link it in the description. There's one you can buy directly from APR that's an exact fit. But if you don't want to wait for it to come to your house, you can actually go to your local auto parts store. O'Reilly's, I believe, and AutoZone has the filter. I will link it in the description, the exact filter for the car, so you guys know. But yeah, so make sure you budget for that. If you get an aftermarket intake with the CBFA engine, you are going to need that secondary breather hose adapter. Don't put a fucking sock on it like some people recommended. It actually has a purpose, albeit a ridiculous purpose because of Volkswagen and emissions. It still has a purpose to where if you leave it exposed, it's going to cause issues with your car. So yeah, there's that. Another thing too, this one's kind of comical. I don't understand why, for the love of God, Volkswagen and Audi cannot create a goddamn glove box handle for the life of them. So on my Audi TT that I had, that was my very first car, which got me into Euros, the glove box handle broke. This car, just a week ago, the glove box handle broke. I don't know why, and I see, like in a lot of videos and photos of this car's interior, I see that a lot, like the glove box handle's broken. And unlucky for us, the fix is to replace the entire glove box, because Volkswagen again. So yeah, that's another comical, like kind of annoying issue. And then there's like creaks and stuff that happen, but that happens with age. And then one other one that I actually love, and it's not really a gripe, it's very characteristic of German cars, is that crayon smell. And it comes from like the adhesives they use for the interior. During a hot day, it'll smell like crayons in the car. I don't know why, but for some reason I like that. Maybe it's because I fucking snorted crayons when I was younger. I don't fucking know. I don't remember. I did a lot of weird shit, but I like the way it smells, and it's pretty much characteristic of a German car. So I absolutely love that. Other stuff too, you know, like I said, this car, the 2.0 TSI in specific, which is what we're talking about, makes power extremely easy, responds to mods extremely easy. Another one we're going to talk about too is the turbo. So your turbo will go bad, and there really isn't a specific, I mean, there's one code you'll get, which is an underboost code, but you can even get the underboost if your diverter valve goes bad, and that's also a common issue in this car. So if you get basically the tall tale sign, which another subject we're going to get into right now as they wrap the video up, is oil consumption. So when your car starts consuming a shit ton of oil, that's pretty much a tall tale sign that your turbo is shitting the bed. It can also make like a weird whine sound. And I only know this from, again, my Audi TT. I'm going to be using that as kind of a platform for the issues that I've had before. Sorry guys, get fogged up in here. But Yeah, so this car in specific will consume exactly, my car, exactly 1 quart of oil every 1,000 miles, just like the manual said. I thought they were being overly aggressive with that figure, but nope. I pulled the coils, I pulled the spark plugs, there's no oil on them. That's just what it consumes. Granted, I do a lot of spirited driving, so your car will consume a shit ton of oil, so just kind of budget for that. Also, you need to check it every other fill up. There's another issue that we're going to get into that I'm sure you guys have ran into if you own the Mark 6. You turn the corner extremely hard in this car, and then you hear that fucking deafening beeping sound that every Euro owner dreads to hear, because it's fucking, it means something's fucked on your shit. Like, it means your shit's fucked up. Excuse my language. But you hear that beeping and you see a big fat picture of the fucking oil icon that says low oil pressure or no oil pressure, yeah, it makes you shit the bed. So I got that code when I turned the corner one day on a really hot day. If you guys are familiar with the Seattle area, there's a nice little roundabout in Lakewood. So I kind of turned the corner, you know, got on it a little bit. You know, I pay for the performance. I pay for the whole car. I'm going to use some of it, right? So I turn the corner extremely fast, and I hear the beeping sound in the oil, and I'm like, oh my God, did my oil pump just shit the bed? So I pull over, I look for a puddle of oil, didn't see anything, because I was assuming also the rear main seal had gone bad. Pull the dipstick, I am 2.5 quarts low. I'm like, oh my God. And so it snuck up like that. So the way it's designed is the oil feed line, the pickup line, the sump is on one side of the oil pan. So when you turn the corner really, really quickly, all that oil swishes to the opposing side, and it temporarily starves the engine for oil. Now, in a perfect world, that won't cause any engine damage, but it can, and it may not. And the thing that sucks is it may not be right off the bat. So if you do get that code, you need to plan on replacing your timing chain tensioner and guides and chain all together. Even if it didn't cause any apparent damage, you just wore like 60% of the life of that chain just from that. So I got that, and I already have the kit. I just got to find a shop to do it because I really don't want to fuck with the timing on these cars. So that's yeah, that's something too. And I think at least here in Washington, to do the chain and all that, they charge like $2,000, and that's parts and everything. So that's something you'll be budgeting for as well, should that happen. Other than that, it's a great car. You're going to see a lot of horror stories about the car grenading. I mean, some cars do have issues with fuel injectors. Some fuel injectors randomly shit the bed, don't know why. So I personally recommend just replacing them if you have an older Mark 6 and you go to do your intake manifold. Just fucking budget for that. The new injectors, the O-ring kit, just get it all done and forget about it. Just, you know, okay, thanks, bye, wham, bam, thank you, man, whatever. Just get rid of it, all in one deal. But yeah, other than that, these cars are fairly reliable for the performance you get, as long as you stay on your maintenance, because issues compound. And a lot of the reputation this car gets is from kids that buy this car, or pretty much not even just, you know, teens or whatever. You know, it's their first car, and they expect this car to be like a Toyota Camry. You see GTI, you see performance, turbo, and that, you know, that's pretty much what markets this car as turbo. So the first thing is people just buy mods. They don't want to fuck with maintenance, because let's face it, fixing your car is not fun. So upgrading it is, but fixing it's really not fun. So people get a bunch of FBOs, you know, they find the car used, and then they blow the piss out of it, and then, you know, they either end up sending a rod through the fucking block, they blow their turbo out, they blow the chain because they didn't do the research, and they modded a fucking car that was over 5 years old without building the car up. And something you guys got to realize, German cars, and I may be a bit more biased because I'm not really a fan of JDM. In my personal opinion, I think Euros have been doing turbo engines better for the longest time. But with that, there are still some issues. These cars have very low tolerances. The compression rates are ridiculous. So the margin for error is extremely thin. But anyway, people get these cars, they throw a bunch of fucking shit on them and blow something, and then all of a sudden it's an unreliable car. You'll see it all the time. If you don't believe me, don't take my word for it. Look on Reddit. You see this shit all the fucking time. Do your research, build your engine up, then mod your car. Simple as that. That's all you have to do. But no, You see turbo, they mod it, they think it's a brand new car, blow something up, which is completely their fault, and suddenly it's a piece of shit. Now, you know, there are some of them that are lemons, I mean, with the issues I've gone over, but if you do your research, you're fine. And also, don't buy one of these cars without a service record, you know, without any paper trail, because you're going to be stuck. And these cars can turn into a money pit, don't get me wrong, really fast, especially if you live in an apartment and you can't do the work yourself. These cars turn into money pits extremely quick. So if you can't get that maintenance, you need to plan on this being a project car if you can't get those maintenance records, because that's kind of what it turns into. Like I said, guys and gals, other than that, it's a wonderful car. Pull the trigger on the purchase. Buy it. It's fun. It's absolutely the best bang you can get for your buck. Especially, I mean, unfortunately, because of COVID, the pricing has been a little bit higher than it should be. But if you can cop one of these cars on a really good deal, I would fucking do it, because it's the best fun I've ever had. And it's been an amazing car. I still get compliments, even though this car is like 6 years old. I still get compliments, you know? Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'm super excited to do this first video. All right, this is DOS Tim checking out.